got this.
All right. Well, welcome to the line. I'm here with Alex of Jane Motorcycles. Is it Jane Moto? How do you say it?
Jane Motorcycles.
Jane Motorcycles. So, Alex, welcome to the line.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, for those listening and watching, Alex, can you tell them where we are, who you are, what Jane is, and we'll just kind of start into that.
Jane is 10 years of 7 days a week, pretty much. Guy asked me about 11 years ago if I could do anything, what would I want to do? I was working construction at the time, and I was like, well, the only thing that I've always loved that hasn't gotten me in trouble was motorcycles and clothing. And
That you've always loved that hasn't gotten you in trouble.
yeah,
Motorcycles and clothing. I like that.
I had spent, but the previous time in my life, I had just gotten out of a 5-year federal prison bid.
Okay.
So I had been out for about a year, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do that was not going to continue to get me in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then he said, well, then go ahead and do it. And I went and apprenticed with a motorcycle mechanic for a while, kind of just bounced the idea around to a bunch of people. And finally, one person, I was actually asking them for a job. They told me they had quit, and I then pitched them, well, why don't you give this a shot? And they agreed. We put together the business plan over 6 months, and after that, we opened in November of 13. We had a small store on Grand Street.
Well, for those listening, you say Grand Street. I don't know. Did you say where we are?
Oh, we're in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So we opened a small store. We built a couple motorcycles, and we were innocent. We knew nothing, so we didn't know that we were out of our minds. And it's when you look back at the things that you in order to do big things in life, you have to have blinders on.
Yeah.
And when you look back at what you did and the decisions you made, you're amazed that you did that.
Well,
anyway,
that's the truth.
we started with an idea to make a clothing line based around motorcycles. We opened up mainly as a retail store. We had no idea how to make clothing. We put a coffee bar in because we wanted to give people the ability to hang out. We grew up, my business partner is a surfer. I'm a motorcycle guy. We grew up in motorcycle shops, surf shops, skate shops. So that feeling that we had as a kid hanging out in those shops, that's what we wanted to recreate. So the coffee bar gives people the ability to hang out here without having to buy clothing all the time.
Right. Right.
And then over the years, we learned how to make clothing. And now, 10 years later, we've pretty much got a full line. And I guess you could call it the beginning of a business.
So you went from construction to apprenticing on motorcycles, building some motorcycles, to clothing, and now you have a coffee shop here. Honestly, this is probably my favorite place that I've done a podcast yet, because I'm surrounded by cool bikes, cool clothing, and coffee is like less than 15 feet away. So that's pretty awesome culture that you're building here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. We've built a living room.
Yeah.
That's
A
what
pretty
this is.
comfortable one, though. The one that all the kids want to come hang out in.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a good place.
So with the clothing line that you guys have, and I was looking at some of your stuff here, and it's like, it seems like quality and sourcing is a big deal to you, in what it is. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So when I started making clothing, I didn't come from this industry at all. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything. Not a thing. I grew up 10 blocks from the garment district, so I knew that. And I grew up, in New York where clothing's very important. But I didn't know anything about the manufacturing side of it. I didn't know anything about any of it. So when we started, there's all along the way you make choices. So you can choose to immediately go to China, go out of the country. You know, you can. I don't know. We didn't. Along the way, the choices that we had, we just chose. I started to fall in love with the actual product, with the manufacturing side of it, with the soul that is built into a garment. It was kind of like what I thought was there. It's not what I did not. What, you know, I bought what they were selling, but it wasn't
Right.
true.
Right.
But there can be a soul to something.
Yeah.
You know? And I think we started 10 years ago, but I was in prison for years before that. So like I left off at a time when I guess manufacturing was still not as gigantic as it is right now. There was no fast fashion. I mean, like
Right.
J. Crew was actually still like a smaller company and things like that. So when we started making things, this was an ego play for me too. It wasn't about, I just want to make a shirt. If I'm going to make a shirt, then I want to make the best shirt.
Come on.
So
Yeah.
then, and I had those choices.
Yeah.
And so along the way, it was like, okay, well then who makes the best of this best? And so for a minute, we went to a place where we really didn't even make any money on anything, but we used the best of the best from Japan with all of the, the exact fabric that was used in World War II and blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
And so we jumped out there and we recreated, the deck jacket from the N1 deck jacket with the exact alpaca, with the exact whipcord. Everything was perfect. That doesn't make that.
Yeah.
That's not necessary.
Yeah.
So now, the good thing is that that's where we came from.
Right.
So I do know what the best is,
Yeah.
and now I can refine it down to make it useful. Because I mean, at the end of the day, for me, clothing isn't about fashion; it's about utility.
Yeah.
I believe that if you're going to make good clothing, it's got to have a reason to exist. It's not about, oh yeah, that looks cool. Yeah, that's fine, but I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that company. I want the guy to come back. I mean, now we've been around 10 years. I got guys that come back and they say, hey, I bought this jacket and I went around the world. And you can
Yeah.
see it in the jacket.
Yeah.
And then I crashed 5 times and it got cut off and I repaired it and I did this and I did that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not fashion.
Yeah.
That's utility. You
Yeah.
know, and it's really cool that you can make a piece of clothing that becomes a skin for somebody.
Yeah.
That they relied on, that like traveled with them, that like the only thing that went on that trip was that jacket.
Yeah.
That guy went by himself.
I think a lot of people actually, even in, we're talking about, or we're going to be talking about the trades, and, Blackline exists to lift the view of the skilled trades. And I really like the way that you say that, because I think a lot of people don't realize that the clothing that they wear, especially in the, in construction, in the work that's out there every day, it's what protects us from the elements. That you called it a skin, and it's like, and then it tells a story that goes along with, like they went around the world. Or I worked on this project, before we came here this morning, Curran took me over to World Trade Center Plaza, and I got to see different things from that time. And it was actually a little emotional for me, because it really took me back in some of those memories. But there was jackets, there were hard hats, there were things in the museum that told a story. And when you talk about that with clothing, I believe that we don't realize the importance of when you're making something for someone, and then when they live in it, and the story that then tells. Plus, especially with what you're making, it protects them to a point as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little sad. You get into this business and you start to see that there isn't much, and it's coming across in the trades, and it's coming across in a lot of other things, that like people don't really. Everything's about money right now.
Yeah.
And it's not about. It's how can we sell it? What does it need to get to be able to be sold?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to. I mean, there's a few things that has to fulfill a need, but at the end of the day, everything's becoming so disposable.
Yeah.
That you're not going to get anything with a soul in it. You know, you're not going to get, and that kind of sucks. You know, even houses. I mean, a lot of the trade stuff. I go upstate and watch the guys that build the houses up there, and
Yeah.
like, you know,
They don't build them the way that they used to.
there's no
Yeah.
soul
Yeah.
in it. They have no connection to the customer. They're not the neighborhood guy. It's not, you know,
Yeah.
and it's your house.
Yeah.
You know, and it's your car, and it's all your other stuff, and that's what you're gonna get when you just, you know, you pull out the people that care.
Yeah.
And it's just, we're driven by too much money right now.
I agree, and that's part of the sad thing in what's going on in the trades, in a way, is because money is the thing that's bringing attention back to it. Because there's less people in the trades than there were, you can make more money being a plumber or an electrician than you could when I started, tremendously more. And part of it is the demand that is now there. People want to be able to flush their toilets. They want to be able to turn the lights on, but you talk about soul, or what I would call authenticity, being in what it is that we do. And I think that's something that, you know, we have this paper money that we use, and really, what is it worth? Someone tells us what it's worth. They say what it is, and this is what it does. And it's like, I feel like we're missing it. Because when you do the work, like you talked about, you apprenticed, and we're sitting around some motorcycles that you've built. You've been a part of building.
Yeah.
And it's like the fulfillment that comes from being a part of building and making something like that, with the quality that's behind it, where it's about the product, it's about the work that you're doing. That's pouring the soul into it.
Yeah, and the only thing is the time that it's money's got everything skewed.
It does.
You know, because like what people want out of life is to be rich, but the reality, if you're chasing that, then you're not able to put your soul into anything.
Yeah.
Because that's going to take time, and time is now going to take away from money.
Yeah.
So like, I know a guy who builds bikes, and it was funny. A friend of mine asked me, he was like, yeah, I'm going to try and see if he'll let me apprentice with him, because I don't want to pay him totally. And I was like, look, dude, the guy's got to pay bills. Like,
Yeah.
he's a really nice guy, and he does put his soul into it,
Yeah.
which is why he's broke. And you don't ask him for a favor, because he'll
Yeah.
do it. But,
To his detriment.
you know, and that's the thing, is like, people aren't, they don't put the price tag in the right places on some things. It's like, I mean, Louis Vuitton gets whatever they want.
Right.
You're not getting jack for that, you know. And then you've got a guy, you know, who fixes your motorcycle, and you're going to argue with him over every penny of it,
Oh.
you know. And then it depends on the consumer base. Like what I make here, I can tell you the price points are high, but it's as honest as it can be.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I make things here. I can show you pictures of the people that sewed it. It's all the fabrics are from here, and I make small amounts of it. It cost me what it cost me. I put a margin on it, and that's what it sells for. And I am not rich by any means, you know. But I'll get an argument as to like, oh, well, the stuff's so expensive, and it's like, because less and less of the world is doing anything,
Yeah.
they don't have any idea what price point should go on something, because they don't do anything anyway.
Right.
So they have
no
no
concept.
idea
Yeah.
what it is to get from A to B.
Yeah.
You know, because when you do stuff, it's like when you have a toolbox, you will borrow a tool and give it back to the guy and take good care of it. When
Yeah.
you don't have any tools, you have no understanding of how fucking annoying it is if the wrench isn't in the right place.
When you have no concept of value either. Like,
I know.
you know, if you didn't, when I was an apprentice and I bought my first set of screwdrivers, I had no concept of it, and I bought these cheap ass screwdrivers, and in the first like 3 weeks, I had busted I don't know how many tips off of them, and then I realized, oh, I need to go buy the good ones, because I don't want to keep going through this, because I'd have to stop whatever I was doing, go buy a new tool, and it's like I needed to invest in the. But then I learned the value of it.
Yeah.
Boy, let me tell you, I didn't. Funny thing is, I don't use screwdrivers like I used to, but I still have them because I didn't lose them.
Well, that's so. you've got what's valuable to you is only valuable for, its utility to you. It's like, people want a Rolex, but a Rolex is just a piece of fucking metal. It has no value, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it has no use anymore either. It's funny. They still talk about how well it tells time, and it's like, my fucking phone tells time perfectly. Your watch is useless.
Yeah.
But like a good tool, I mean, we're Milwaukee's got all these new fuel lines. I mean, they're great, and they do a wonderful job.
Yeah.
And it is the tools that you buy that you spend some money on. They're the Rolex for the guy that does stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. For the guy that does stuff. I like that. So just, I gave you a little heads up before we got started here. Just kind of shifting gears a little bit. What is a piece of gear or clothing, tool? What is one thing, and it can be any one of those things that you're the last person on earth. You can't live without it. Whatever picture you want to think about for that question, what is the one thing that you cannot live without?
My truck.
Your truck.
My truck.
A particular kind of truck, or just your truck?
Nah, you need a pickup truck.
Okay. Yeah.
Everything in my life wouldn't happen if I didn't have a pickup truck.
Yeah.
I'd probably do it with a van, but I'm a truck guy.
Yeah, and that would be creepy. We don't do it with vans
I don't know.
anymore.
Vans are pretty good these days, though. They're still funny looking, and they don't have 4-wheel drive, most of them.
Would
so
you have one of those like circle windows in the back of your panel van and some shag carpet and stuff like that?
No, but they've almost got me. I'm getting older, and utility is really, really starting to win with me.
Yeah.
But I had this guy said the other day, it's like I'm at that age now where seeing if my truck can get to 500,000 miles is more enjoyable than buying a new one.
I know so many guys that would connect and resonate with that statement.
Toyota makes a good truck.
This is true. This is true.
I like my truck.
So you talked about utility. You talked about what you're doing here. And the underlining thing that I keep getting from you, whether it's clothing, whether it's a truck, whether it's a tool, it's all about utility for you, Alex. It seems like that's your like number one thing.
I mean, that's even in the race world. That's like everything is utility, whether or not it's used for fixing your house or racing a car or whatever it is. But beauty is from what it does.
Yeah.
Nothing, fashion is created all the time. It goes in and out. It's fucking garbage the next year. It doesn't have any place. It doesn't stay. It doesn't do it. The icons, that's what I want. I want the icons. I want the best small sports car. I want the best adventure motorcycle, the best dirt bike, the ones that they just did it right.
Yeah.
And every tool has it, every car, clothing, the iconic pieces that defined what they were meant to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Curran, I want to shift gears and talk about when we were talking earlier, we were standing around here drinking coffee, looking at motorcycles. You're talking and running your business at the same time. I could tell. I know what that looks like, taking calls and doing what you need to do. But like, we talked a little bit about education and, what is education? And I asked you, if you had gone to college, and listen, I don't have a rub with college other than I don't think that we're being fed a line that is true, that you can't succeed in life without college. And what is education to you? What is like? Did you go to school?
No, I'm a high school dropout. I don't have a rub with college. I have a rub with society saying that they got the idea. So we're working on, in so many ways in our culture, we're working on a archaic structure that was built when we, had only finite amounts of food, things like that. And we've adjusted as a society.
Yeah.
And yet a lot of our, the way we talk to our youth and the way we do those things hasn't adjusted. I'm a very strong advocate for having fun till the day you die.
Yeah.
Never lose your inner child. I mean, if there are young kids looking at me right now, whatever you're into right now, bro, you're doing it right. Adults got it wrong. And the only thing I got to say is adults everybody's winging it. The further you are in life, unless you are literally, at the checkout counter at the grocery store, you're winging it. Nobody knows what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
And this isn't back in the day where, you got a good blue-collar job and it was secure and you could build a family around it. And, you don't have any. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Like your job that you're going to school for right now might not exist when you get out. And there's a really good chance it won't.
Wow.
So...
Well, I mean, what you're talking about there is the truth. The older that I get, the more that I realize, you say that the adults are winging it. The older I get, the more that I realize the less I actually know.
Oh, yeah, that's the beauty of age.
And you talk about if you would have known the things that you know when you started, I wouldn't have started. I mean, that's the fact of the matter is I wouldn't have started.
Well, look, the world has been a great place to me. I have no complaints. I opened this business and I haven't had anybody hurt me or try to stop me along the way. People have been helpful, so I will not say that, I had to fight to get here. I mean, I did, but not to overcome anything.
There's a difference between fighting and hard work.
But I do disagree with the teacher that takes their class so seriously, because I'm sorry, at the end of the day, I'm not going to remember this. And you might think I will, but I won't.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. I have 2 young kids, and they will go to school, and they will be told, that it is important to go to school. But I think it's much more important that they have a zest for life and an interest in learning on their own. And I think that their interest will trump any interest of any teacher along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in an age right now where, like, I needed to learn photography for this business.
Yeah.
So I sat on YouTube for a week.
Yeah.
And I learned photography.
Yeah.
And I mean, I took an interest in it. I rode around on my bike and I took pictures and I learned all the, different functions and how to get it to work the way I wanted it to and to do all that. And I was up to speed, in 2 months.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to sign up for classes and go to the bursar's office and do all the shit and hope that they put me in that teacher's class. And I could pick, that guy's a better teacher than that guy. I like that guy. Do it.
Well, at Blackline, we hire photographers, and you know what we base our hiring on when we hire a photographer? Is their work,
Yeah.
not their degree.
I'm even from hiring, I don't know, employees are tough.
We'll save that for another podcast.
Employees at this level are tough too because, I can't pay $1 million. So at the end of the day, you're kind of signing up for the culture as much as you are the paycheck.
Yeah.
And, sometimes this is New York City, your bills will get on your shoulders and the culture will start to lose its allure. So I get it. It's but when you become a boss, you there's as you get older, you realize you can't judge people.
Yeah.
You become a parent.
Yeah.
And guy used to come in my cafe and he'd feed his kid a muffin every day, and I'd look at him and be like, you got to give your kid better food than that. And then I had kids. If my kids eat a muffin, I am happy as a clam. So, just be real careful. Don't make any hard lines in the sand about what you would and wouldn't do in life, because it's going to come back to check you one day.
Well, I mean, I think we have to be really careful about judging things, because the fact of the matter is we don't know that person, where they are, who they are, what they're going through. And we lay judgments down on people without all the information. And I am guilty of that. I've done it, But like you said, I can remember my boss saying to me, making a comment to me, and I'm like, man, you don't know. And I never thought that I would be a boss someday. And then I want to call him up and say, hey, man, I'm sorry. I was a jerk. I was a loser. I was a jackass, because this is what I thought, and I had no idea of what you were dealing with. Because, quite frankly, I was really self-centered when I was younger, and I thought the world revolved around me, and that he knew that. And little did I know that he had the responsibility of everybody else that worked there, not just me. So,
Yeah, it's the boss employee situation is. I mean, I'm very close with some of my employees, and we have a good relationship. And I do understand what it is to be an employee, you know. And I do understand that, like, look, at the end of the day, this isn't yours. It is mine.
yeah.
I do have to get up if nobody shows up. That's
Yeah.
the, like, you know, you got to know what you sign up for in life.
Yeah,
And
that's the truth.
you know, I went to prison for years for selling drugs back in the day, and I used to be there with people and they'd bitch and whine.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "What? Somehow or another, did you miss that this was illegal?" They're like, "Oh, the judge gave me 10 years." I'm like, "Yeah, but I mean, I knew that.
Yeah.
I was rolling the dice, and I knew I was rolling the dice. You know, but
Yeah.
you got to know what you're signing up for."
Yeah.
And you know, it's like, you know, when you do choose to run your own business or, you know, beat to your own drum, you know, all bets are off. But the scary thing is that our society right now, I mean, there's a lot of beautiful things that are going on with, like, entrepreneurial stuff and and like running your own business, and like the ability that people have to run their own things is crazy right now.
Oh, yeah. And the technology and the things that you can use.
The only problem is it's going to cut a real divide between those who do and those who don't.
Yeah.
You know, because this is scary. And the like, just sign up to get a job,
Yeah.
that's kind of going bye-bye.
Yeah.
You know, now it's like, but that being said, you can reinvent yourself, you know, and, you know, I mean, that's, for my kids, it's like, you want new toys? Sell your old one on eBay.
Yeah.
I don't care what you get for them.
Yeah.
I'm like, figure out how to make the world work for you
Yeah.
in the background so that, you know, your paycheck is not the only thing that's
Alex,
driving.
How do you think that you do that? You know, figure out how to make the world work for you. How do you do that? I mean, we're talking about a lot of things here, and we were talking earlier about just how hard it is. And I said this on a podcast a few months ago, but there's nothing worth doing that doesn't cost something and isn't difficult.
Okay, so I when I was in prison, they make you clean the kitchen when you first get there, right? And I'd go in there, and there'd be the white guys and the Mexican guys. And the white guys were pissed off about it, and the Mexican guys weren't. And at a certain point, I had to start looking at myself and saying, like, what? That guy's laughing his ass off over there. Like, those
Yeah.
guys are fucking stoked. What's
Yeah.
wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why? Like, because at this point, my attitude, nobody's paying attention. Nobody cares if I'm pissed off.
Right.
And they genuinely don't care. They're not asking whether or not I'm having a good time. So, like, me being pissed off is just me being pissed off all by myself. And I realized that, like, their perception of this is something they're grateful for. They're happy to do. They're fine with it. Work is not an issue for them. And that's all it is. You know, I go dirt biking and we're like beat up in the woods and the, you know, puddles of mud and dragging bikes through it. And it's, to some people, it looks miserable.
Yeah.
And we have a great time.
I got to be honest, I've watched some of that footage. It looks awesome.
So that's just perception, you know. And it's like, if you wake up in the morning and your job is hard, okay, fine. Hard's fine. I go to the gym. I don't want to lift lightweight. I want to lift hard weight, you know. And I don't walk out of the gym going, fucking weight was so heavy today. You know? Like, I do, but not in that sense,
Right.
you know. And like, I think we've promoted being a bitch. Like, we let ourselves just cower over anything hard.
Yeah.
And what what people don't see is, like, work is a good day's work will beat you up to the point where you go home, you feel like you have full permission to watch TV. You're not a bum because
Yeah.
you just got your ass handed to you.
Yeah.
You can watch TV and sit there and just in peace because the day was heavy on your shoulders.
Man,
Now,
I like that.
A stressful day I don't want, but
Yeah.
a day full of,
hard work.
digging ditches.
Yeah.
At the end of it, I promise you, you're going to feel good to sit on the couch, and your
Yeah.
brain's not going to be playing tricks on you.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to be worn out, and that's the best feeling is a day of just being worn out.
Yeah, that's the truth. I've had days where I've sat on my ass, and I've had days where I've worked, and they definitely feel different. And the thing is, when I was young, you couldn't tell me that.
No.
I had to learn it, you know. And it's like people don't understand. You know, I work in an office during the week, and my wife and my kids, we live on a farm, and so my wife has this, you know, I call it a side gig, but she would not call it a side gig, where we farm, cut flowers. I know it sounds really manly and tough, but it's like, it's hard work. And like, I could care less. Hey, Amber, if you're listening, sorry. I could care less about the flowers. But like, there's something about working in the dirt, working hard, you know, and then at the end of the day, I'm tired, but it's like, I feel like I earned it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I feel like I earned it, and it's like, that feels good. And there's something about that.
I mean, that's, you know, in my life, I've had times where I've made a good amount of money, and I've had a lot of the accoutrements, but I got them in ways that were not earned. So, like, you know, I got a Rolex
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
It meant nothing. I gave it away.
Yeah.
I don't miss it. It had no meaning. I held it in my hand for a little while, wore it for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's gone. You know, things only have a meaning if they're earned, like possessions especially.
Yeah.
You know, my truck's what, 13 years old now almost. You know, whatever it is, it's not a brand new truck. It's not shiny. It's all beat up or whatever. But it's my truck.
Yeah.
You know, and I paid for it, and I earned it, and it's done me well, and we have a relationship. You know, and that's valuable.
Yeah.
And we're starting to, you know, we're missing that kind of stuff a little bit. I don't know if we are as a whole. I mean, I just, you know, my own little
It
bullshit,
seems like
but-
it in what we see. You know.
Well, I mean, look, if it's all for an Instagram post or a photograph,
Yeah.
then you're definitely not.
Yeah.
You're not getting 13 years with your truck.
Yeah.
You know, you're getting, you know, a picture.
Well, and I mean, that's, you know, I hate to sound like the parent in the room, but that's fleeting. If you haven't earned it and it doesn't have, I mean, if you haven't earned it, then it doesn't have value. Like when I was a kid, my dad said, I wanted certain things and we didn't have money. And he's like, well, then you need to get a job, earn the money, and then you can get that thing. And funny thing is, I did that, but then when I got the money, I was like, you know what? I really don't want that thing.
Yeah, but man, I'm sorry, youth. You're just gonna have to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Because there's
Yeah.
just absolutely no one that was going to tell me anything
Yeah. That's the truth.
until I started to ask them. And that, you know, I'm 48 now, and it's a nice place to be.
Yeah.
Because I actually have the ability to know what really would bring me happiness,
Yeah.
and then, you know, the buy it now button.
Yeah. Yeah. So you talk about that in what really brings you happiness, and it's like, so let's talk about, you know, I said to you earlier, I just like to know, like, I think I've learned a lot from my mistakes, and you've been pretty open about your life. You're pretty real and authentic, Alex, and that's a big deal. It's one of the reasons that I think what you have to say actually matters, because so many people are fake in what they're saying. And it was pretty evident to me when we were talking earlier. I told you, you know, we don't edit this podcast. It's authentic. It is what it is. And you didn't care. You not only didn't care, I realized very quickly that you were going to say what it is that you think, what it is that you believe. And it didn't matter what I think or what I believe. You were going to say what you believe. And that is the definition of authenticity. And I think that's the big thing that we're missing, whether it's the Instagram post or whether it's what I need to learn, you know, all of that stuff. But you were pretty upfront about mistakes. And so it's like, I said to you early on, mistakes are where I've learned, you know, that's how I've learned things. And so what is a mistake that Alex has learned from that has changed your life?
I mean, if you look at everything I did between the ages of 13 to, and I would say 11 till 35, it would probably be written down as a mistake. I've got 26 arrests on my record. I'm a Category 6 career felon. I also had no police interaction in the last 15 years, and I've been sober for almost 14 years in March, next month, actually.
Congrats, man.
Thank you. And so I guess that all goes down as mistakes. As far as like, the repercussions on my family and things like that, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I could never. I have 2 children right now. Please don't make those mistakes.
Yeah.
As far as life experience, it's been crazy.
Yeah.
It's I've had the extreme ups and the extreme downs. I know what it is to not have enough money to eat. And I know what it is to live in a 5-bedroom house with a Porsche in the front, and I know what it is to lose that in a day.
Wow.
Those kind of things are great.
Well, that sounds like what it is to be a business owner.
Well, it gives you
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. But along the line, you get a baseline for at least like, okay, I've had the highs, I've had the lows. Where is okay?
Yeah.
Where is just, what do I need?
Yeah.
And then, because I know, you can spend your whole life thinking that a Rolex is going to define you, or
It's
that
funny. I was just thinking that the
it's-
Rolex is not something that you need.
Oh Jesus, it's not. It is not something that you need. And I mean, so what I'm looking at now is how do you? Because I'm a person that prior to going to jail, I owned a lot of shit, and I now somehow or another have accumulated pretty much exactly what I had when I went to prison. So you can do it as a drug dealer, or you can do it not as a drug dealer, and it still winds up looking the same. But it's how do you...
One you don't have to go to jail for, though.
Totally true.
Yeah.
How do you organize your life to where your possessions don't own you?
Oh, there it is.
And it's something I'm going to try to treat my daughter. So I just bought 2 dirt bikes. I was like, I don't know what. I just feel like I wanted to buy some dirt bikes.
Yeah.
So I bought 2 dirt bikes, but I bought them with the understanding that they were going to be rented. And so I'm set up here in this business to be able to have friends that can do that kind of stuff. And so I set it up that way, and so now I have 2 dirt bikes that I own that I can use at any time I want, but that they also bring me an income rather than cost me money.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a way that our new society can operate. It's definitely a way I'm going to try to teach my kids, is that, and that actually comes back, and I didn't really think about it, but it comes back to the things you purchase. So you can buy a crappy set of pliers on Amazon that have 0 value.
Yeah.
When they either break or they don't break, but when you're done with them, they're going in the garbage.
Yeah.
Or you can do 2 things. You can buy a very good tool set on eBay that has already established a value because you bought it on an auction, and
Right.
therefore later on down this line you will be able to recoup majority of your costs. Or you can buy that product brand new, knowing that you have something with a value.
Yeah.
That, I think, is in the clothing world is actually already changing things, because people know, okay, if I buy this jacket for $1,000, I know it's working in the luxury market right now, because
Right.
they're starting to see that people buy the things that they can resell.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm going to buy this jacket, but I'm not going to lose $1,000. I know that down the road I can sell this thing for $700. What that will do is force the industry to say, okay, well, now they're not buying our tchotchke shit anymore.
Right.
We actually have to make stuff that lasts,
Yeah.
because this thing's going to have a life with that guy, and then he's going to want to sell it on eBay, and it's going to have a life with another guy.
Yeah.
And by the time it's done, if we make a jacket that guy can have, that can be sold over 30 years, now $800 for a jacket's not exactly crazy. and it can live with a different segment of the population throughout its life.
Yeah.
You know, that's the same thing with cars. It's all, you know, but I think
Don't you feel like we're going back to that level of quality though in some ways?
I,
'cause
for
there's-
sure, you can definitely buy it from the top tier down to the bottom tier.
Yeah.
And
So if you're gonna buy it and you're gonna spend your money, then you know I've heard this phrase: "Buy once, cry once." You know, it's like, do that, spend the money to get the thing that that it has value. As
now, especially, I mean, my best friend's a mechanic, so we always laugh about, you know, Harbor Freight,
Yeah.
which is getting pretty good.
Yeah.
But like, there's things that they make that I only use once a year.
Yeah,
That theirs is perfectly fine.
yeah,
And then there's the thing that I use every day that needs to be the best that it possibly can be, you know, and just finding, you know, where the products are that you need. But I think the way our society is right now, it's like, it's not the old, you know,
Yeah.
go get a 9 to 5 and do all that stuff. Because like I spent 6 years living in Miami, and down there there's a different mentality down there. Guy's got an Airbnb over there. He's got a construction company over here. He's got a thing over there. He doesn't really ever go to work.
right.
You know, he's kind of just like walking around in a tracksuit all day. But he's got like, most of them were trades guys from up north that I was friends with, and they brought it down there. But they got like a million little hustles, all legal hustles,
Right.
and they never really wound up having to go to work, and they lived a good life.
Yeah.
So it's like building out that infrastructure and re-looking, like, okay, I'm going to buy a sports car. I don't want to pay for a sports car. I will own one, and if you'd like to rent it, it's on Turo, and you can borrow my sports car. And now my sports car doesn't cost me anything. It actually made me $100 this month.
Yeah.
You know,
I've definitely seen that with like Airbnbs. People are like, I want a beach house, and they're gonna make your stuff work for you, and you can't do that if you're not actually buying stuff.
yeah,
that people want.
So there's your quality.
Yeah.
So now you get to
Yeah.
buy, and it's like, I want to buy a nice sports car. Well, now I can buy a good quality, something that, you know.
So back to what you said about clothes, if you combine quality with utility, it kind of is like I don't want to say a safe bet, but like a sure thing. Do you know what I mean? If you combine quality and utility, it's like if it's useful, like you're talking about with clothes, and has a purpose, and then you combine the quality with it as well, then its value isn't, you know.
It has a purpose. You
Yeah.
know, like for somebody out there, you've created something that has a purpose.
Yeah.
So
Last thing, we talked about motivation. So here you are, you know, you've lived a life, or it sounds like you might have lived 4 lives, but like, I'm young, I'm coming out of school, and I'm looking to the future. What is the motivation or the encouragement that you have for me in this? Because the world's different today than it was for you, and I'm coming into this new world. And we talked a little bit about the trades, and we talked about earlier before we were talking, we talked about for every 5 people in the trades that leave, you know, only 1 is entering the trades. And it's like, and what is a trade? I mean, that's another podcast that we can talk about, but it's like the ability to learn and to be able to problem solve and figure things out and do that. What is the motivation and the encouragement that you would say to the next generation that's like, well, you know, I want to work on motorcycles, and I want to have a clothing brand. I want to do these things, or I want to be where you are in life and be satisfied.
I mean, the biggest one is every day you have to work. I mean,
Every day you have to work.
If you're not, it's like, this business was not built because I'm a hard worker. It's because I work 7 days a week. So, I mean, I guess, you know, it would be considered hard work if it was work. I don't really see it as like
Doesn't feel like
it's
work
not
to you.
work. It's just what I do.
Yeah.
You know.
But work, that consistency, you get up every day. You're doing it every day.
Yeah. It's funny because my previous life I did the same thing, but it was a different kind of job. But like
The one that you go to jail
as
for.
far as a teacher would say, it was like I was not a hard worker, but it's just like you just gotta find how you work. I mean, doing this job, I've realized that like until you do something, you can think you're a lot better than you are.
Yeah.
And then
Well, that's the
when
truth.
you do stuff, slowly you come to realize like, well, shit, I'm not that great at any of it. But at least you find the little things that you are good at. When you open a business, you have to do everything. So, slowly over time, you can kind of like send some of that stuff out. But I mean, hopefully you have a passion. Whatever your passion is not stupid. I mean, at this point,
Hopefully you have a passion that's not stupid.
well, no, you don't let the world tell you your passion is stupid.
There
I
it
mean,
is.
like, look, if your
There
kid
it is.
says I like to play video games, you better take him seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, now don't think that there's a job. There is a job to play video games, but it will be work. It
Yeah.
will not be you sitting around on your ass doing, nothing.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, just remember you are competing. Once you enter the world, when I opened the
Yeah.
store, I realized if I make a T-shirt, Ralph Lauren is 10 blocks from here. For about 2 weeks, people will buy it because I'm cute and I'm new. But after that, I'm in competition with Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
And everything in life, you're in competition with people that are hungrier than you are.
Yeah.
So there's no easy way out.
Yeah.
Learn to change your perception on what work is. Otherwise, you will not be happy with it. You have to embrace all of the things. When like
Yeah.
business is crazy. 1 minute, we have to reinvent ourselves on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't get to sit back and like be comfortable. You're never comfortable.
Well, that's the truth.
And
Well, if you're seeking comfort in a job, even if you're not the owner, you're not going to attain success.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
no.
I mean, you don't have to be the owner to be going after success, but if you're searching for comfort, then I'm sorry, but you're screwed. Like,
I've looked
Life
for
is not gonna
like
help
what
you.
business can you buy, right? What can you just buy and sit back, right?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You buy it. There's another guy bought one down the block. You think you bought a car wash? Another guy bought a car wash. Now you're competing with that guy. Like, it ain't gonna be comfortable,
Yeah.
And the second you're sleeping, somebody's gonna take your lunch.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that's
in
the truth.
in every bit of it. And I don't know what. I guess
So work sounds the same as it's been since the beginning of time.
Yeah, I mean,
mean-
it's it's competitive. It's it's still it's work, but if you think that the end goal is what you're going for, if you think the cars and the house and everything else, that's what you're striving for, it's not.
Yeah.
In any way, it's sometimes like I get nervous about with my children, like, am I giving them everything that they need in life and everything else? And then all my kids need is my love. That's it. If you
Yeah.
can be living in a cardboard box.
Yeah. That's the truth.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's all they're really looking for.
Yeah.
They don't even eat that much.
Yeah.
It's like they just want my love. They want my time and my love.
My kids eat a lot, though. I just got to tell you,
My kids don't eat anything. All they want is, play with daddy and hang out with daddy and do that kind of stuff. And whether or not we live in a 10-bedroom house or, a shack,
Yeah.
really doesn't make much difference to them.
It really does not.
Maybe later on down the road when their friends don't live in a shack and things like that, they can, whatever. But
Yeah, but if you're teaching them what we've talked about and you're teaching them how to
Yeah.
value things,
yeah, if
then
you
that
don't,
changes
if it doesn't bother you,
Yeah,
and it
there it
won't
is.
bother them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the key.
If you're not making apologies for everything and you're
Yeah.
not showing them, hey, we're lower than everybody else. If you're just like, yeah, look, this is what it is.
Yeah. I didn't know when I was young, I didn't know that we were poor until I got married. And my wife was like, you lived like that. And listen, my parents, they did their best, but the truth of it is that if you know what is valuable and you go after that, and you can teach that to your kids, what value is, and that's where the work comes in. I think my dad taught me something very valuable when he said, hey, you want that thing? And for me, it was a Nintendo when I was young. That was what it was. And I got like 3 paper routes, and I started doing work and earning the money. And then I got the money earned, and I was like, I don't know, 13, 14. And it was like, I actually wanted to keep that money because I realized that game box was not valuable enough for me, because I knew that was the first time in my life that dollar bills begun to have value. And I really knew what that dollar bill, what its value was, because I could equate it to the sweat equity that I put to get it.
Yeah.
I could look at, I had to ride this many miles and ride through snow, rain, because my father was not going to come get me out of the rain. But all of that to say, if we can teach the value of things to people, well, then when you look at a jacket on the rack and you know what's going into it and you understand value, then you realize what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Alex, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us, inviting us into this world and the Jane Moto culture, which I absolutely love, by the way. I love the motorcycles. I love the coffee. I love the clothes. We were talking here earlier, and it's like any one of these jackets or any one of these things here, we work in construction, and isn't it funny how I said we work in construction? I really don't get out there on the job site all that much, but it's like any one of these things could withstand that hard work that is put up, because you're literally building things that you can go out in the woods through the mud, through the elements, and they're going to last, and they're going to carry that story. So if you're in Brooklyn, and where are we at in Brooklyn? Because Brooklyn's kind of big.
We're in
Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and you want a cup of coffee and you want to see some cool bikes and check out some pretty awesome clothing, I would encourage you to stop on by, grab a coffee, and somebody told me that if you bought a motorcycle here, you got a free coffee, and then they told me none of the bikes are for sale. So that was disappointing to me. So, but there is coffee for sale and clothing. So, Alex, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. All right.